Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 548. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, Pokemon Gold version and Pokemon Silver version will be discussed in part one of our two-part Pokemon Gold and Silver podcast series. Matt, what is your favorite Pokemon?
Squirtle.
Good answer. It's not Chandelure, but it's a good answer.
Yeah.
I think
Squirtle. The squad.
I think I've
obviously.
Well, yeah. Chandelure's up there, but you can't always. Chandelure doesn't appear in as many things, so I tend to gravitate towards Haunter. I feel like the Ghastly family they've appeared in every generation, I think. They're pretty accessible. What's your favorite generation?
1.
What's the most recent generation that you have played?
2.
No way!
Yeah, dude. Yeah. After all these years, I'm finally playing the sequel to a game I beat as a child.
All right, well, we're going to dive more into that in this episode. We're going to cover Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Silver. We will not necessarily highlight Pokemon Crystal, but I'm sure it'll come up here and there. Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Silver, developed by Creatures Inc., Game Freak Inc., and Nintendo. Published in North America by Nintendo of America. Released for the Game Boy Color, but with compatibility on the Game Boy. First released in North America, October 15th, 2000. This was back in the era where Pokemon games used to have quite a difference in release date between Japan and the rest of the world. The back of the box for Pokemon Silver version and Pokemon Gold version reads, "Gotta catch even more. Enter a whole new world with new Pokemon to capture, train, and battle. Meet Professor Elm and get the all-new Pokegear, including map, radio, cell phone, and clock. Set the clock, then watch as day turns to night, and events take place in real time. And be sure to keep an eye out for Pokemon that come out only at night. Dozens of never-before-seen Pokemon. Find new evolutions for some familiar Pokemon, and discover whole new species. Your Pokedex will even reveal genders of some Pokemon. A whole new world. Explore Johto, where there are new gym leaders to beat and 8 new badges to earn, 2 new types, introducing Dark and Steel type Pokemon. Trade with Gold, Silver, Red, Blue, and Yellow versions to catch them all. Compatible with Pokemon Pikachu Color." That was I forgot about the Pokemon Pikachu Color. That was the little Pocket Station Dreamcast VMU little fella that you could hand things off using the IR sensor on the Game Boy. So we're talking about Game Boy. We're talking about Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver, which I think maybe this is the point where we can just say Gold, Silver, having to type it out so much and speak it. Pokemon Gold version and Pokemon Silver version. It's, and it's no different than what they do today. If you watch any of the modern, video presentations or anything by the Pokemon Company, it's always Pokemon Scarlet version and Pokemon Violet version. It's very specific. We're talking about these games today. We are not adding them to the list. And listeners, if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're not familiar with what the list is a massive list of video games that we have ranked over the last few seasons of the podcast. Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver will be added to the list later this year, but this is just part one, our journey through Johto. These are what we're considering potential Wii Sports Killers. These were my nomination to topple Wii Sports from the top of the list. And as we've been going through Season 12 this year, and trying to see if there are any games better than Wii Sports. We always start off these multi-part Wii Sports Killer episodes with the question, why could this challenge Wii Sports? And I kind of, before nominating it, had some thoughts. And now after beating Gold, I have more thoughts. Initially, my thinking was these were the obviously sequels to Red and Blue, but they seemed to kind of do everything that Red and Blue did initially, but better in most ways. They added a lot of new features, which we'll cover today. And I feel like you can kind of look at other Pokemon games and, you know, everyone's going to have your favorite one. And usually for most people, it's the first generation they started with. They have sort of an adoration. It's kind of like your favorite Final Fantasy is always your first Final Fantasy. But something about this generation, even after playing a bunch and probably having generations that are more my favorite than this one, going into this year, Gold and Silver just felt right. They kind of are like the quintessential Pokemon experience. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't played many of the other games. I mean, I know.
But, you know, going into this year, you knew I nominated Gold and Silver, and you didn't say, hey, that's a bad idea. We should play something else.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying more leaning into this is the pinnacle of Pokemon. I thought, oh, yeah. No, this, I mean, yeah, I didn't deny it. It's RPG. I mean, it's a little bit different than Wii Sports, but I don't know. It has like a name brand to it. It has, you know, we've used approachability a couple times, but it, you know, like this genre, I don't know, I would say maybe Pokemon made it explode, and then this is a sequel to, you know, the explosion, and you know, after Red and Blue comes out, it's the cartoon that probably takes the United States by storm, and this is all right, this is the one, all of a sudden now on Game Boy, and yeah, I mean, gotta catch more of them now, and yeah, and I was more so curious to play another Pokemon game after all these years as well.
Yeah, I want to jump into that next. But yeah, the thing I remember, I mean, to your point of accessibility or approachability, like, I beat this game as a kid. So it's something you can do. But even going back to it now, like, it's not easy. It's doable. It's just, you know, I mean, to be honest, part of what got me through the Elite Four was being on a train for 3 hours and walking around in the same patch of grass, fighting things while I'm sharing the experience share between multiple other Pokemon in the party and just grinding levels all the way up. But that is one approach to getting good at the game. So yeah, it will be added to the list. And I think it makes a good contender for Wii Sports because it's approachable, but it's fun. I think it has somewhat of that universal language hidden within it. You know, it's easy to understand, difficult to master, much like Wii Sports, but I think a fun journey all the way through. I want to talk about the game proper, who we started with, who we finished with, kind of what we look for in a Pokemon game. We'll talk about some of the new additions to the second generation compared to the first generation. But Matt, you've brought it up a few times now. You've only ever, in the history of Matt playing video games, and the history of all of the, 9 generations of Pokemon, you've only ever played one core game.
That's correct. I played Blue as a wee lad.
Did you ever get Yellow, or it was just Blue and done?
It was just Blue. I will say, I did not come close to beating it, but my last semester of college, there was needed a class for to graduate. I just needed any class. Me and a couple of my roommates found a 100 level business class that seemed super fucking easy, so I would bring my laptop with me, and I would sit in the back, and my instead of listening, I would play Fire Red on an emulator.
Oh yeah, okay.
I got through a couple badges, but again, still like red, blue,
Still,
nothing.
that generation.
Yeah. I just saw like the 2 Pokemon on the screen versus 2 other Pokemon on the screen, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I've dabbled in a couple other games. I've of course played the stadium games. Not in a way, because I never had an N64, but not in a way to like import my stuff from Blue.
Right.
I played. Recently I played Arceus. For a bit.
Yeah.
That's a different type of game. That was like kind of like the change in formula got me excited again. While Problems, I thought it was a cool little. I'm excited to see where that series goes. Is a good kind of testing on like where they could go next. But yeah, no, I just never. I don't know. I caught them all once, and just the franchise never kind of chimed with me again.
Well, you did catch them all?
Oh no, sorry.
Okay.
Air quotes. Sorry.
All right, I didn't know if that was an actual.
No.
Because I can't remember if I did. I remember beating it. I feel like I had a complete Pokedex, but I don't remember if I did or if I Game Sharked it. I have no idea. I definitely remember in Blue doing the missing no tricks and things like that, and duplicating rare candies off the coast of whatever island that is, Cinnabar Island.
Sure.
So that I could just, get my Blastoise up to level 100 or whatever. But yeah, I think to date, I've played every generation. I skipped 3 and 5. And 3 came out at the absolute worst time for me, because it was like right at, I don't know what year that actually came out in. But either way, it was that period in your life where you are too cool for everything that you did as a kid, even if, your consideration of being a kid was 1 grade ago or whatever. So I was way too cool for Pokemon by the time Gen 3 came out. And honestly, in hindsight, I played Alpha Sapphire, the remake on 3DS. Don't care for Gen 3. Never liked any of the designs. Still don't like any of those designs. There's like 1 good Pokemon in that whole generation. You could wipe them all out. I wouldn't be upset.
Oh, it's not that Nose Man, right? What's that fucker's
Nose
name?
Pass. No,
Nose
he's
Pass.
there, but I don't care for him either. Yeah.
What do you mean he's there? It's terrible.
There's worse. There's a lot of uninspired
I know there's
choices.
worse.
I know. But yeah, I mean, even once we finished Gold here, I went back to my save in Violet, and I beat Violet just recently. So I'm,
Oh, there you go.
still keeping up with it. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with any of it. I think there's an interesting future ahead for Pokemon. Just like there was back in 2000, or rather in 1997, when this game was first being discussed under development. One fun fact I found from the original website for Pokemon 2, as it was called, back in 1997. This is a translation from Japanese, but it says, a new mode of transportation debuts in the form of the skateboard. In Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue, the protagonist used a bicycle as a handy mode of transportation on his Pokemon catching adventure. In addition to the bicycle that appeared in Red, Green, and Blue, Pokemon 2 will feature a skateboard as a new mode of transportation. Riding it may even allow players to reach unexpected locations in the world of Pokemon 2. And that never happened. Which is a shame.
I was just saying, I don't remember a skateboard.
No, I don't think they've had a skateboard yet. They sell real skateboards with Pokemon on it, but I have not seen one in a game. I wouldn't mind a return to that. But while that didn't make it, we did get a whole ton of new additions to Gold and Silver. Namely, I think the thing that stands out the most at first is there's 100 new Pokemon over Gen 1. So, and the most important Pokemon, of course, is the one you picked at the beginning. So Matt, for Generation 2, you played Silver, I played Gold, which Gold was my childhood game. In fact, I played my actual cartridge. I dumped it so that I could play it on my Analog Pocket. And more on that later on when we get close to the Elite Four. But yeah, I did that so I could play that. And then and now I chose Totodile as my starter because Water for Life. Who did you pick this time around?
I picked, was it Cyndaquil?
Yes.
Little fire boy.
Is that just cuz or?
I think. I very much remember beating Blue with water. So,
yeah.
Squirtle and a Blastoise and whatever. And then when I had the cards, I had a Venusaur. I pulled a Venusaur out of a pack.
Yeah.
So I just never trended towards fire. So I think that was part of it. And I think Cyndaquil looked I don't know. I think he looked the coolest of the bunch.
Yeah, Cyndaquil is the coolest of the bunch. The only reason I picked Totodile then and now is just because water. But well, this time I did it because I wanted to try and replicate my original experience as best as possible. But yeah, Cyndaquil is definitely the best of those three starters. There's also a kind of invisible difficulty to the game depending on your starter, which I don't remember. I don't know if you looked it up, but there's...
I know Blue has, or Red Blue definitely has it too.
Right, yeah, it's, compared to the Pokemon you'll meet first in the wild and the first few gyms that you battle, that dictates, or rather your your starter's strength against those types dictates the difficulty. Do you remember the first Pokemon you caught in the wild in
I believe
Silver?
it was a Hoot Hoot.
Hey, me too.
There was a lot of them around.
Yeah, I hung on to him too. I guess we also both started at night, so that's
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I kept mine around for a while, eventually getting it to Noctowl, and he was the one I taught Fly to, and the one that I taught Flash to, which I completely forgot about Hidden Machines, because for the last few games, they really haven't been there. I forget which game first kind of moved away from having them, but they're not a thing at all anymore, and it's such a requirement in this first one. Like, you are fully prevented from navigating through the world without certain HMs taught to your Pokemon. So there's 100 new added on top of the original 151. Who are some standouts for you that you really liked? Obviously, you've seen a lot of Pokemon over the last 20 years, or 24 years, 23 and a half years since this games came out. But, getting to play the game and see them and experience them here, did you have any standouts?
So the wild thing is, I had, whether, I don't know if you want to call it unbiased, or, oh, shit, I forget the term. But whether, an unconscious bias or not,
sure.
But I definitely trended towards Gen 1. Because I knew what I needed in my party makeup, and I knew the Gen 1, elements way more than I did anything here. I really, once I got going, I really did not have a Gen 2 Pokemon after Hoot Hoot for a bit.
Oh, wow.
I'm looking at one of the most useful apps I used the entire journey, the Prodex app.
Is that the one I sent you? Is that the one?
Yes, it is. Sure is. And then, especially because you can limit it to Gen 2 and backwards.
No, we need to take a second before you answer this question. Prodex, at least on iOS, they have every game accounted for from Gens 1 through 9. You can swap which decks you're looking at. You can build checklists. It not only shows you detailed information on where the Pokemon are, but it also shows you when they evolve, if there's a special evolution, where to catch them. For each game, you can also use, there's kind of a built-in, not tracker, but they have a list of each gym leader that you'll fight and the Elite Four, so you can quickly reference who are you about to fight, what Pokemon do they have, at what level, at what, it's a really, really great app, and it's free, right, but only limited And then I gave him, I forget what the upgrade is, but I gave him the in-app purchase to just like fully unlock the app and have it.
Yeah, I didn't go down that road because I didn't want to see. I wanted like everything to kind of be a surprise with the gym leaders and that kind of stuff. As much as I knew,
Mm-hmm.
I guess more on that when we get later. But yeah, no, like for example, when I think I started bringing this up last week, but when I started to try to burn a pseudo Wudo and it was not working, and I did not know why it was working, I pulled up this app to see, oh, that tree is somehow a rock. Interesting.
Yes.
And then pivoting from there, of course. But yeah, I was using this all the time, especially when I would see newer elements, or I don't know, what's the actual Pokemon phrase?
Oh, the types?
The types, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when I see newer types. Like, I, for a while, did not know how to approach Steel. Or Dark, or any of those. And I even forget some of the obscure ones. That, like, of course, yes, I know Fire, or Water beats Fire, and, you know, that kind of stuff. But, like, I forgot what took out Fighting. And there is a gym leader who is all fighting, and I was struggling, so I would like look up those Pokemon to see, and pull up a chart and see.
I'll remember the combos, but I always forget which direction they go in. Like whenever I think about like Ghost and Psychic, I'm like, which one is super against the, you know what I mean? Like I know that they are, one does the, you know, it's tough to balance that, but
yeah. So no, that's what I was using that more so for the type thing, like things.
A couple I've got. I love the new Eevee evolutions, particularly Umbreon, but I think either evolution is great. I really like Unknown just as a concept. There's a whole side mission towards the beginning-ish of the game that you can go through the Unknown, or what is it, the museum over there, and interact with all the Unknown, and you can slowly catch.
Yeah, I never went back for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
The ruins of Alph. Yeah, you can like. There's an Unknown for every letter of the alphabet, and you can collect all of them at some point. Porygon 2 is an incredible name? Pokemon.
Oh, it's just name in general.
Well, great name, perfect name, but yeah. No, I love the shape of it, especially after the first Porygon. And then Tyrogue. I like Tyrogue a lot because the first game, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan were so cool, but you could, if I remember correctly from Gen 1, you could only get one or the other. And it was just kind of what you got, where this time you get a Tyrogue, and depending on either what your Tyrogue is caught with, or how you end up training it or giving it boosts to its attack or defense, you can shift what it'll evolve into. And I like the idea that like you could get a Pokemon and train it to be a Hitmonlee, a Hitmonchan, or now the new version in this one, Hitmontop. And then shout out to Delibird because he looks like a Sonic character.
So,
you know.
Sorry, I'm like looking up some of these Pokemon because I don't think I ran into them. At least not yet, but I guess we'll get there.
Yeah.
Too.
So another big thing, we both caught Hoot Hoot at first, and the reason we did is because we started the game at nighttime. Because day and night is a thing in this game. And it was first added here in Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver. It remained a series constant there's been different caveats to it over all of the mainline games. I think my favorite one was Gen 5, which I still haven't beat Gen 5, but Gen 5 added seasons as well as the actual real-time clock. Most recently, Scarlet and Violet, they traded in for 1 day lasts 72 real-world minutes. So if you played for 24 hours straight, you would pass 20 days in the game. It's kind of like that Breath of the Wild approach where you can kind of just like see day and night, all the way through and whatever. But there's something special about like turning it on at the same time, and it looks and feels like it does outside to you. And there's events tied to it, right? So there's events tied to day and night. There's events tied to days of the week. There's a few things like there's friendship was a concept in the first game, but the idea of evolving a Pokemon based on your friendship level with a Pokemon was added to this. And then you also have, like, I think an easier way to detect your friendship level with a Pokemon and a slightly easier way to affect your friendship level. But one of those is by getting haircuts on certain days of the week in the underground path in Celadon City.
This is all in this game?
Yeah.
I realized none of this.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know I could get a hair. Well, I didn't know I could get a haircut, but it was a Game Boy game. It's not like I'm running around San Andreas getting my haircut.
Well, it's for your Pokemon. Your Pokemon gets a haircut,
yeah, right,
and that increases its friendship level with you. I only know it because I wanted an Umbreon, and I knew that Umbreon, you needed to have it reach a certain friendship threshold, and then it needed to gain. Once it was at that threshold, you need to gain a level at nighttime. And Eevee becomes Umbreon. So I made sure I was like doing everything I could. It's the same thing for Crobat. I had a Crobat in my party, and he's also also a friendship level. But yeah, there's that. I mean, there's certain events like the bug catching event that happens in the park, the national park. There's little things like that pop up during certain days of the week, which is. It's neat. I mean, you get to kind of know at a certain point, like, who's where, and other NPCs will give you hints, like, oh, have you talked to so-and-so? She's here on Friday mornings, and I forget the thing, but there's, like, a woman in this town that if you talk to her on Friday mornings, she'll trade her whatever with your whatever, and you'll get, that kind of stuff. Another big one, the clock, it's always visible in your Pokegear, which is a new concept for this. But within the Pokegear, you have a cell phone. And that cell phone can hold up to 10 phone numbers. And what's neat is after you fight certain characters in the game, if you talk to them after the battle, and they're one of the ones that are supported, the neat thing is every trainer in the game, outside of Team Rocket Grunts, all have unique names. So you really can, like, sort of place who they are and where you fought them. But you'll also be able to get their phone number, and they'll call you occasionally for a few things. Most often, they'll call you just to tell you what their Weedle looks like, which, good enough of those phone calls in real life, right? But sometimes you'll get phone calls about rematches, and what's neat is it usually happens once you hit a certain level threshold, and you'll go back and fight them, and some of those trainers you fought really early on that you kind of just sweep, they might end up being a little bit more powerful the next time you rematch them. They also call about swarms of Pokemon. If there's like, there's certain Pokemon, like Tauros is one that you can only really find when you get a phone call from a trainer that says, hey, there's a bunch of these things over on Route 38. And occasionally, very rarely, and I never got it to happen this time around, I was actively trying, they will call you for certain items like the Fire Stone or the Leaf Stone. And they'll say, hey, I found this thing. Do you want it? Which that I never got to happen. Specialized Pokeballs were a new addition for this one. Did you chase down any of those? There's the one you kind of have to do after the events in the Slowpoke well. But did you ever go back to Kurt for more?
No. No, I had a couple Great Balls, a couple Pokeballs. But man, once I kind of got my party going, it was just like, man, I'd be catching something. You see, I'm just an idiot. Because I didn't know half that shit you just said existed. And then I really fucked up just trading my Pokemon. Because I remember seeing it, and I think I saw it as I was turning the game off about the partner leveling thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think I turned it off, and I just completely blanked my mind, and I went back to just regular old blue, red, like pull out the Pokemon, swap them out, or start with that Pokemon, swap them out for the Typhlosion, or whatever I'm running at that point. So I was grinding like that, not even using, just sitting there in my bag, just doing nothing. Yeah, so I'm just an idiot in general.
No, I see. This is the thing. As I played through it, there were a lot of these things that I was trying to remember. Like, do I just know this because I knew it before? Is it 20 years of ingrained knowledge? Like, because there were things I just remembered, or maybe I didn't remember fully. Like, okay, talk to this person on this route, and you'll get. But there were things I just like. Isn't there a way you can block? And I looked that up and double check, and that was nice. I mean, so for you, what's your usual goal in a Pokemon game? I think, and these are the 5 I kind of came up with as usually the 5 goals. To experience the story is one I think you could have. To complete the Pokedex, to raise a competitive party, to go on an adventure, and to collect all the badges or become the champion. Do you kind of fall into one of those categories or something else differently?
I'm definitely like going the target badges, target Elite Four. That's kind of my end goal and everything. Hence why, like, kind of once I got my party going, it was just seemed like a waste of time to try to catch Pokemon when I would never fill it out, and I felt like I was just burning money on Pokeballs instead of getting like super potions and stuff like that.
I had a similar thing this time. Like, a lot of the times I'll play games and play the Pokemon games, like, I do try and fill out my Pokedex as much as possible. And there's been a few times where I've like done it. But this time around, like you, like, I feel like if I encountered a new Pokemon and I had Pokeballs to catch it, I would do what I could to catch it. But I stopped, like, I got to a point where I was like happy with my party. I just needed to level them up. So I was just murdering things, because this game, you don't get experience for catching like you do some of the newer games. You need to knock out the opposing Pokemon to get the XP. So it was very much that kind of, let's just keep going, keep killing. A couple other things that were new for this I want to hit on. I know this is subtle, but in the first game, you had 5 different stats. You had HP, attack, defense, special, and speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5. In this game, special got split into special attack and special defense, and it's been that way ever since. The interesting thing there is just you now have another stat to track and another one that you can kind of buff, debuff. But it also changed up the actual like training of your Pokemon. So this is something I've never gone deep into, and I feel like this is like, if we can topple the dominoes in the right direction, like, you will fall down this hole like hardcore, just because I know how you are with this kind of stuff. But are you familiar with the IVs and EVs?
I know the EVs.
Not EV the Pokemon, EV as in effort.
Oh, yes. I remember this stuff from Pokemon Go.
Yes. So there's exactly. They definitely like made it easier to understand in that. So these were in the early games. They were just hidden and not as prominent, and the ways to increase these things were different. There's a whole complicated. I mean, there are thousands of Wikipedia pages you can read on Bulbapedia or whatever if you want to. The short version of it is the original version of the effort value system. Basically, if you defeated a Pokemon, you're getting experience back, but you're also increasing each of your core stat values, your HP, your attack, your speed, defense, whatever. Each Pokemon you fight gives you a set experience number, but varied results or varied updates to your individualized stats. So, meaning, if you spend an entire afternoon fighting, if you and I start with the exact same Pokemon and has the exact same values, which is also unlikely, but if we did, and you go into a field and you just fight Hoot Hoots, and I go into a different field and I just fight Caterpies, we will have raised and trained 2 different Pokemon because of who we battled against. Which is something that's not like prominent in the new games, or really, I don't know. It's not as like, and even in this, it's completely invisible. It's not something it's not there, but kind of knowing that, looking at this game, it made me think about who I was fighting, and I don't know, it gave me a deeper appreciation. I didn't realize that it was like that core to Gen 2 until I was basically in the end game, so I really didn't get to take full advantage of that, but it was an interesting change. And yeah, the change to split it from simply being special, I think, certainly made a difference, and it stuck with the core gameplay ever since. You can also separate, there are separate pockets in your bag now. First game, there was just one bag. This game, multiple pockets, so you have, more storage space. You can also give Pokemon items. Did you take advantage of this at all through your playthrough?
Another thing I found out early, I kind of forgot about until about like a third through where I'm at right now. I always forget about it once I do remember, I will sit down and like actively make sure each Pokemon has something. But there's usually, now there's hundreds of different items. There's usually stuff that can boost a specific type's power or something like that. So you can get I forget what it is. I forget the name of it. Fury Band, I think is what it is. And it's like, it increases fighting type moves. You give that to the fighting type move in your part, or fighting type Pokemon in your party, and that'll increase. They've added genders and breeding to the game. So you're kind of introduced to this pretty early on. You get a call from Professor Elm, who gives you an errand to run to go meet Mr. Pokemon. He then gives you an egg. Did you know that whole plot? Was this new to you? Did you expect what was coming out of that egg? I mean, I knew. I knew.
You knew it was Togepi just from the anime, or?
Yeah. I think the anime, yeah. And then, no, but I didn't touch any of the breeding stuff.
Me neither. And it was one of my favorite things when I first played Gold as a kid, because I still had my blue and my brother had his red. And we had a bunch of Pokemon in there, and I remember we had Ditto from those games. And in this game, you could bring Ditto over. And I think you can catch Ditto in this game. But you can take a Ditto to the daycare, and you can breed anything you want, almost. And I had a lot of fun back then, breeding and then carrying the eggs around with you to see what hatches. Like, it was always exciting. It was neat, too, to, like, put two different Pokemon there. And, like, of course, now you can just look up, how do I get whatever? But when I was a kid, you would get these different Pokemon. Because there's also different new baby Pokemon in this, right? We have Pichu, we have Magby, and Elekid, the little baby Electabuzz. A lot of those. And, of course, Smoochum. Can't leave out Baby Jinx.
Oh.
But, you would dump some of these Pokemon off, and then you'd go back and get the egg, and you'd run around and you'd see what you would get. It was a fun extra element to the game. Again, like, kind of back to, like, when I'm thinking back to nominating this game for the list, it was all of these things that I'm thinking of, right? Like, think about how much you already know and love about Gen 1, and then they just added all of this extra stuff. That's, in many ways, totally optional, but it's all, like, just, if you want to take advantage of it, it's there, and those systems run really, really deep. The only other two big things I've got noted down, one of them is shiny Pokemon. They were new for the first time here. Did you catch any during your journey?
I got the obvious one, the Red Gyarados.
Oh yeah, I killed him by accident and didn't feel like reloading my save, so he's gone forever. I know. I should have done it. If we had recorded this episode a week ago, I would have told you I've caught one shiny in my life. But as of last night, I've caught two shinies. The first one I ever caught was a Helioptile in Pokemon. I can't remember now if it was X or if it was Moon, but one of those. And then the second one was last night. There was a shiny Venomoth in Violet. I was walking by and I was like, why does that Venomoth look blue?
Congratulations.
Got a blue Venomoth. Ready to party. And then we added 2 new types. Matt alluded to this earlier, but they added Steel and Dark to Gen 2, which changes up the game just a little bit. We wouldn't get another new type until the 6th gen when they added Fairy. So this was kind of the set core type chart for a while. Did you gravitate towards any Steel or Dark Pokemon?
No, I was kind of more so covering my main elements. A fire, an electric, leaf, and water.
Who was your
and
water?
Kind of wing. Gyarados.
Oh, duh. Yeah. So those are a lot of the big, additions, changes to the game. And we've spent a good bit on those things. But let's talk about our time with the game. You boot it up, you pick your starter, you started on your journey. Walk me through, where's your head at?
I actually was surprisingly addicted early. I didn't think that was going to happen. I kind of came in. My fear the entire time was like the grind on the party. That I know how this is. If I need the grind, I need to switch out the Pokemon. Like, that's annoying. And I kind of had that at the back of my head the entire time. But as I got going, I was pretty consistent about my leveling and not necessarily sticking around in an area too long. But yeah, no, I started moving, and then before I knew it, I had a couple Pokemon, and I was, at a gym doing my thing. And then, yeah, from there, the momentum kind of kept going. And honestly, the momentum never really stopped. And I would say it probably still isn't completely dead, but I figured I kind of wanted the organic part 1 experience going into this recording.
Yeah. So did you just kind of go gym? As much as you can, right? There's a couple of like forced.
Yeah, for the most part. I dabbled in that, where the unknown, was it unknown?
Unknown? Yeah.
Is it unknown? Okay. I dabbled in there and I thought I had the picture correct, but it wasn't like doing anything.
Oh, you know what you might have done? Because I did the exact same thing. Well, I don't know if we have the same picture or not. Because Gold and Silver might have it flipped. I don't know. But for me, it was a Kabuto, the little like shelled guy.
Yeah. I think that's
it was literally, I had it done and it didn't do anything. And I'm like, something should trigger, right? And it was whatever 2 tiles I had in the center needed to be flopped. And it like just so slightly, you can see like there's a pixel of a difference. And as soon as I swapped those 2, because it looks like you're done. When I did it, it looked like I was done. And then I swapped those 2. And then the whole thing shook, and yeah.
Maybe that's what I did. But yeah, no, I was trying to mess around there, and it didn't really work out. I got to the park, and then I think I was just there on the wrong day. The park wasn't really happening with too much. Yeah, I would say I probably didn't do a ton of extracurricular.
Well, there's one thing I know you did for sure. So this game was the first to have the legendary Pokemon on the respective covers, and each of them are encounterable in both versions of the game. So just because you buy Silver does not mean you can't get Ho-Oh and vice versa. But you did go get Lugia in yours.
That was more of a necessity.
What got you to that point?
When I reached the Elite Four and I only had 1 Pokemon worth giving a damn about.
Who was your good one by the end?
Oh,
the first time you got. Oh, that was
just carrying the load. And everyone, like, of course, the Elite Four, it's like lower 40s. Most of their Pokemon are in, and then a lot of mine were like mid 30s, which,
yeah, it's tough. Some of them, like if you have the right type matchup and speed values, like you can get there, but yeah, it's
no, and that's what ended up happening. Like I kind of got the thing, but to be fair, I got kind of like steamrolled my first time. I was like, all right, I know the Pokemon, know what to expect, I know who to have out, going into the fight. And then I died, I think, once to the last of the Elite Four. I think I died once there. And then every time after that, I had nothing for the dragon, the champion. I had nothing, and I would just melt. So yeah, I was just like, you know what? Let's take a step back and reanalyze our lineup. I was like, oh, I could probably get a good Pokemon from the rip here if I go to a certain island.
Yep, smart idea.
I did cheat though. I did look up like the specific walk-in route. I didn't figure out the puzzle by myself. I mean, it's not really a puzzle, but like the location.
You mean like once you're inside the cave where Lugia is?
Yeah, well, there's like 4 different entrances to the cave, and I think they all interconnect underneath, and there's like an optimum cave you can go into and figure your way around. Okay.
No, that makes sense. Some of those maps are...
With the random encounters, like, fuck that noise. I know there's items, but still, like... there's a time and place for random encounters. And when you're like, you have a goal in mind, like when I just want to wander through, I'm like, all right, it's fine. Like I'm annoyed, but okay, I'm at least leveling up. There's some benefit. But when my goal is to get to that thing and every step I take, game over. I don't know why. I don't know what it is with ice in Ketchum games. But, like, I'm like, the Ice Palace was my level, like, holy shit, I'm not equipped for this in Demi Kids. And then in this ice cave, I'm trying to figure out my way around, and I'm gliding, I go into a fucking random counter while gliding, I think. I think it was this game.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's...
Or maybe that was Demi Kids then. But, okay. So, but here, like, I'm gliding around, getting lost, and then I could take one step into the... the actual ground, and it's like, you fucker, stop.
The worst.
Yeah, so navigation kind of stunk. I would say I was using some maps, getting back to... I don't think I really did it to Victory Road the first time, but because there's no good way back to past Victory Road, when I went back to get the Lugia, I was definitely using a map the second time through.
Yeah. Yeah, it does become a necessity. When I was a kid, I remember having the like official guidebook, and that was what I referenced if I ever needed help this time around. It was nice because I feel like it was my goal for me playing this was always to as closely replicate my experience from when I first got the game as possible. So I got to do that a good bit, I think. Although I think this time around, I had a better party for the final fight. One that like more fits. I feel like sometimes when I've played these games and I've gone to the Elite Four, you just like you, right? Like you just start getting slammed and you've got to like tweak and tailor, and like I tried this time to be as true to my favorites as possible. The only one that ended up in my party that like I don't really care for the Pokemon is Ampharos. But everybody else I was like happy to have them. And I guess this is the part where I should say I got an Abra from the casino. I got, and not by winning, by the way, because I tried to play the games. I tried to get enough coins built up in my coin case so that I could get some of the Pokemon prizes that are in the casino. I could never win well enough. Even if you go on the right day, the right time of day, you can get to the machine that pays out more. Didn't help. Didn't matter. Nope. So I just waited until I had enough like nuggets or something like that and sold off. So I had a lot of money. Then I went in, bought enough coins just to get an Abra, raised it to Kadabra. I had a Ghastly raised to a Haunter, and I had a Zubat raised to a Golbat. And I had Eevee, like just waiting to hit Umbreon status. And I checked that the pocket could like effectively work with original hardware and a link cable, and I was like, I'm gonna try it. So my gold cartridge, the battery's dead in it, so I can't actually save there anymore. But as long as you turn it on and you get to the point where you have the egg and the Pokedex, you can trade. So I did that. I caught like a random Rattata or something like that. Went back to the trading thing, plugged it in, and nothing happened. And I was like, all right, I flew too close to the sun. No big deal. I swapped the cable, just like put it in the other, swapped ends. All of a sudden I was connected. It worked. I was able to trade my Kadabra, my Haunter, and who's the other one? I think that was it. I don't know. Either way, I could trade them over. They evolved, and I traded them back. So I was able to go into the Elite Four with Alakazam and Gengar ready to roll. And then at that point, I'd regretted that I never raised a Graveler, so I could have traded that, but so be it. So we both cleared Elite Four this run and got through Johto. We are Pokemon champions, as they call us. Do you feel offended that it's called the Elite Four and not the Elite Five?
I'm indifferent to it because I hate it, but I don't mind it at the same time.
Yeah, like I get it. Like he's the champion that you're beating, but yeah. Yeah.
At least I knew about it. I knew there was a fifth. I think I remember this from Blue. Like, there's a champion in Blue.
I remembered it from Blue, but I forgot that they did that again here. And I think because I'm thinking so much about, I don't want to spoil it for folks who haven't listened to part 2 yet, because it hasn't been recorded yet, but there's other stuff that happens in the back half of this game, because even though we beat the game, we're not done.
Yeah, you see, I thought that was champion.
Oh, okay.
That's where I didn't beat the game yet kind of was like, oh. On top of that, I was thinking also that was, it was that, and I just thought it was another generation that did it. I didn't realize it was that same game, or the next game did it.
Yeah. So this was meant to be, I guess, should we go there now? Should we open up what that is?
I mean, I might be the only person on planet Earth that might not know this.
Hey,
but I do now, so...
Yeah. I guess if you're currently playing Pokemon Gold and Silver and you're unaware of what happens after you beat the Elite Four, just pause us. Go beat the Elite Four and follow the story as it goes. But we're going to talk about that now for a short time. We're going to spend a lot more time in part 2 talking about that.
Reopen your save when you complete the Elite Four. Because remember, you get booted out to the main menu.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you need to. Yes.
Turn it on and go fill out that Pokedex. Find out what happens.
Yeah. You were given a ticket, a boat ticket, to take a boat somewhere else. And that somewhere else is back to Kanto. No beating around it. They put the entire first generation's map inside of this second generation game. And you end up going back to the first game's map and working your way. You see how closely connected both of these areas are.
So close yet so far away for a fly hidden machine.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm so frustrated. And honestly, that was why I didn't do so much of the side stuff that I wanted to do, like the breeding and things like that, because once I was in Kanto, and you couldn't quickly just fly back over. I mean, now I'm at the point where there's a train, or there's other stuff you can do. But because I couldn't just, it made it like, I was like, well, I'll just beat Kanto. I'll just get through the rest of it. But you go back through the original 8 gyms. Some of them are different. Some of them are, changed up a bit. There's some new plot points and things like that. But Gold and Silver were planned to be the final games in the series. The Pokemon Company, or rather Game Freak, I should say, when making these, this came out during an Iwata Asks, which those interviews still, almost 10 years after his death, still continue to be just fountains of classic video game information. It sucks that we don't get that kind of stuff as frequently anymore. But Ishihara of the Pokemon Company confirmed that the games were meant to be the finish line, what he called it, for all of the stuff that he'd done to set up product licensing and merchandising and trading cards and all of that. As they wrapped up the first game, they had the request to turn it into an anime, and he was reluctant to do so because originally these games, the Pokemon Gold and Silver, were supposed to come out 2 years earlier than they did. And he was afraid that he knew that anime usually comes to an end quickly. Like they do like one series and it's done. He was afraid that the game would come out or the anime would end before the game was even out or something like that, where it would just mess up all of their efforts for these things. So he was worried about that, but obviously that didn't matter. Ash was still the protagonist up until like a year and a half ago or something like that.
Yeah, like how long is Indigo League? By the time Indigo League finishes, I think you could have watched 3 different sagas of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, yes. But when you look at it as Gold and Silver, intended to be the final games in the series, you can see a sort of finality with what they end up doing with Kanto. And again, we'll go way deeper into that stuff, kind of the impact of that and our journey through Kanto next time.
Because I'm currently on the boat over.
Okay, yeah.
That's exactly where I stopped.
So the aforementioned train where I was grinding was the train up to New York. And then coming back home from New York is when I beat the Elite Four. And then I still had time left over. So it's like, well, might as well get through this boat. So I ended up doing the whole boat thing at that point. And then Kanto. What is, just looking at the Johto stuff, how does it feel to be back in Pokemon?
Again, it's surprising how much I became addicted and kind of wanted to play it. And it was weird because I've recently been getting up super, super early. Part of it is for the other thing that I kind of felt, the other project with Ring Fit that I've been falling off of, but I've fallen off of that, but I've been just consistently getting myself up early so that way I can eventually fall back into it and not like hate myself for getting up. That's my long-term strategy. Anyway, no, but it was weird. I was kind of living out my childhood again. I remember my grandmother at the time was, when I had Blue, was sick, and she was actually living with us. And my uncle and my 2 cousins would come over before they would come to school. And usually, like, he would come over. There was a couple things he needed to do medically for her. They gave us like an hour, and we would play Blue in the like wee hours in the morning. And then they would go off to school. I, of course, was homeschooled, so I continued to do absolutely nothing. Watch Sports Center, I don't know, whatever. And yeah, and I kind of came back to that. I would take like an hour and throw something dumb on YouTube, and I would like backbone into my computer in the living room and just kind of play for an hour, get somewhere to good stopping point, and end it. So like I got it to be like nostalgic, but also like shocking. I'm genuinely shocked how much I enjoyed the first bit of this. I really did not think I was going to like it as much as I did. So yeah, I think surprising and also surprisingly nostalgic at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool. Especially, not having played this one in particular, but being able to go back to that experience. I'm with you. I was really, really, I know I nominated this one and whatever, but the whole time leading up to us starting playing this, I was so worried about how much of a slog this would feel. Because like, dude, I'm not saying the new games are easy, because there's still challenge to them. There's just new, different types of challenge. But the new games, you get experience for your entire party when you catch a Pokemon. You get there's just that stuff's unheard of. But even in Pokemon Gold and Silver, the thing I forgot, there's things I remembered, right? Like, okay, only a single Pokemon gets experience, HMs, walking. Just period. There's no vehicle. There's no Pokemon you ride. You will get the bike eventually, but that's it. There's no fast travel until you get Fly, and that's the 7th or 6th.
Later.
It's way down there. It's it's a grind to get through, but you can kind of look at it as the adventure that it is. It worked out, I think. But the thing I forgot about was like the boxes. Did you ever fill up a box in this?
Fill up
a PC box?
Oh no, because I kind of stopped catching early.
Oh wow, okay. I think it's 20 is the cap on a single box.
Oh, I might be closer than I think, but I don't think I filled one now.
It is infuriating because you catch your 20th Pokemon and you get a notice that says that it looks like you filled up PC box number 1 or whatever. You physically have to go into a Pokemon Center, open the PC, hit change box, then it saves the game, then you choose box 2, and now you can continue catching Pokemon. But especially, this game, there's obviously catching Pokemon is a big part of it, but like this game also has the 3 legendary dogs, which they're cool. You encounter them in the underground passage and you kind of interact with them and then you set them free. And that becomes this cool, exciting chase where randomly, as you get your random encounters with other Pokemon, it could randomly be one of these 3 dogs. And with those, like, if you have a full box and you get one of those encountered and you get the chance to actually catch it, you can't because there's nowhere to put it. Super, super aggravating. So yeah, again, like you, I was worried about that. But no, I found myself like quickly able to slip into it. Even with like, I told you I just went back to Violet after beating this. And obviously that's fresh, but I was just playing Violet like a couple months back. It's not like I'm like so separate from it. Like I'm used to those conveniences and the modern kind of sensibilities. But still, it was easy to slip back in.
One of the nice things, I know there's some crazy, or not crazy, but crazy to think about quality of life stuff we didn't have back then. But one of the things that was nice and I enjoyed, like, it took me probably like 9-10 times to get through the Elite Four, but I never went back to just grinding in the grass outside that building. I just kept fighting them, and the experience would stick despite a lost, a lost battle. And that's why, like, my Typhlosion, when you, if you look at my levels, it's so scaled because the Elite Four, the first, like, I would say, like, the first 2, there's a lot of, like, fire weakness, and he was just, like, one-shotting and getting all the experience. But then, like, a Pokemon, like, 1 or 2 Pokemon would be good for, like, my Magneton that I had. So, like, yes, my Magneton would get kills, and it would, like, level, but his level, like, my Typhlosion is getting, like, 10 kills, and my Magneton's getting 2, so that's where, like, the scaling gets all off course. But at the same time, like, yes, I am losing, but it's not necessarily, like, a losing... I'm not losing in that way, like, where... in something like Final Fantasy, like, if you die, like Final Fantasy VII, it's a great time of year to talk about this. The original Final Fantasy VII, if you die in a battle, you're out to your save that you last had.
Yeah, wherever that last was.
Done. At least here, you just put back at the last Pokemon Center, so make sure you visit your Pokemon Centers. But at least, like, they're nice enough to heal them for you and put you out front. And you got all the experience still.
Yeah,
which
you don't have to, like,
it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. No, that you'll sometimes lose money depending on the battle, but yeah, I mean, it's not.
Oh, thank you for bringing up a question I wanted to ask because I didn't make a note about this. Did I just waste like an eighth of my paychecks sending it to mom?
No, I mean, she keeps a savings for you. She
does keep a savings. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she kept buying stuff with my savings. I was like,
she does.
But
also, like,
dumb
go
bitch.
talk. No. Go talk to her, and you'll see she's got stacks. You're pretty loaded by the time you get to the end of the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't fly back now. I'm on my way to Kanto.
Yeah. But, yeah, I forget actually how you. I don't know if you have to physically talk to her to extract it, or if you can do it through the
phone call.
I know you can tell her to stop saving, and she'll stop that function moving forward, but Yeah.
These phones have Venmo or Apple Cash.
Yeah, it's one of the tabs in the Poke Gear. Yeah. Was there anything in your run through Silver we didn't talk about that you wanted to highlight?
No, not really. And I think part of it is because I played a lot of this on Backbone, and it's very hard to take notes and play a game at the same time on the Backbone when my note-taking app is on my phone.
Yeah.
But no, it's been fun because in my household personally. Again, the nostalgia, but also like this is the one franchise that Victoria gets every Pokemon game, whether she beats it or not. She has played every Pokemon game, so it's been fun with the experience of like I'm going through Gold for the first time. She's like, oh yeah, like the famous Miltank. I forget what the trainer's name is, but I'm like, this Miltank is a son of a bitch. And I like die like 3 times to it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that Miltank." I'm like, "Oh, this is like a thing." She's like, "Yes, very much." I'm like, "Oh, good. Yeah. At least I'm not the only one who has struggled like, with this Miltank."
No, it's a nightmare. Yeah.
So that's been a fun little, as I was going through, asking where I was at and stuff like that. So, yeah, but that's a dumb personal thing.
No, and I think that's the thing with Pokemon. Like, it is universal enough, right? Like, people might have like fallen out or whatever, but like, everyone kind of knows Pokemon, and to different levels. People love it. No, I'm glad you had a good time with it. I'm not going to say I was worried, but I know, like, you haven't played... I thought you'd played more than one. I don't know why I always forget that.
Because I think I've dabbled, and Arceus maybe threw you off.
Maybe that was what it was, yeah. But I forgot you skipped, like, the DS generation of stuff, so there's a lot there that, yeah. Do you have interest post this? I know you still have another half of a game to go, but
no, because I always constantly make the statement, especially in the last 2-3 years here, that Shin Megami Tensei is the Pokemon game for adults that I think I've always wanted, and I own 3 and 5 that I haven't beat and should beat. We just talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, I want to play Vengeance. It's coming out on a bad day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's also there's plenty of them. There's part of me that like wants to put Pokemon Black and White on the list next year, just because they're so weird. But
I will say that this got me like invigorated again with Pokemon. Like I'm not going to probably sit here and play, at the end of the year, be like, oh yeah, I played Pokemon and Violet and Scarlet because or Sword and then whatever 2 I have access to.
Yeah.
But like I was more interested in what that Pokemon Presents would have a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Than I think I ever would have been prior to this.
I was more excited for that announcement than when they finally confirmed the Nintendo Direct. Hands down. I was like, yep.
I don't think I was quite there yet. But I don't think I'm quite there yet. But yeah, no, I was curious to see what would come out of that. And again, with the reinvigoration, not that I don't think Arceus is a bad game. I think it's a good proof of concept for what that kind of spin-off series could be. But like with this and knowing what that can be, I'm actually really, really excited to see what they do with the second Arceus. Or Legends, I guess it's the Legend series. Yeah, the Legend series. So, yeah.
Yeah, that one should be... I've got theories. And hopes and dreams. But we'll see. Let me be a gym leader. Let me make my own gym. If the whole idea is to rebuild the city and whatever, let me be a gym leader. Oh, that's a neat
idea. Oh, dude, right? Don't let... I've been saying all these other Pokemon games. Don't forget the saga of Pokemon Unite.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't bring that up earlier. And
I kind of forgot about it. To be,
I've thought about going back to it here and there.
Me too, but I just get so mad when I'm on that rank grind, and it's just not.
Yeah. We do have some plans for the Pokemon series between now and our next episode. So our next episode is going to be 565, which will be mid-July, where we will recapitulate Kanto. between now and then, we'll see. I'd like to, if we can pull it off, have Matt and I go head to head with our two teams. See what can be done with that. I don't know how feasible that'll be, but we're gonna try. I was really hoping the Pokemon Company was gonna put all these things on virtual or whatever, Switch Online, so that we could do the Pokemon Stadium thing, and we still might be able to do that. We're gonna see. We got a couple of months to play around with some ideas, but at the very least, we'll be back with 565 to talk about the second half of this game, talk about the lasting legacy of Pokemon Gold and Silver, throw a couple more fun facts your way. With that, stay tuned till next week, where we'll be back to discuss the seminal classic PC adventure game, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Check out our other episodes on all of our Wii Sports Killers. So far, we've covered Halo Combat Evolved, or at least we've done first parts of all of these. Super Mario Galaxy 2. And coming up soon, we'll be talking about Tetris Effect Connected next month. So stay tuned for that. Till then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.